Square Enix has been obsessed with NFTs as of late. It wasn't long ago that on New Year of 2022, the president of Square Enix released this letter where they talked about what an important aspect of gaming's future, Metaverse and NFTs would be. Talked about play to have fun as if that were an optional aspect of video games, with play to earn being something that's being explored. Recently, they sold off a number of Western studios, namely Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Interactive, alongside Square Enix Montreal, so they could focus more on investing in new business ventures such as blockchain, AI, and the cloud. And the general sentiment out there among gaming enthusiasts is that Square Enix is being steered into an iceberg, and that their focus is shifting to more monetization schemes rather than just proper bona fide video games. And it's just creating very negative sentiments about what the future might hold for the company. But there's one saving grace, one man who, at the very least, is somewhat paced about all of this, and that's, of course, Yoshi-P, beloved producer of Final Fantasy XIV, and he's also helming Final Fantasy XVI. Final Fantasy XIV is the one area where Square Enix is absolutely killing it. It is the top MMORPG. They're letting Yoshi-P kind of lead the charge, and he's been just killing it out there. And now he's had some stuff to say about the Metaverse that is encouraging, at the very least, that he is kind of holding the line and not leaning too much into this gold rush hype. Now, this article right here is from 2 months ago, and then I'll show you something more recent that he said. But even 2 months ago, Yoshi-P did say that he's not too sure about Metaverse and NFTs. This is an article from February. Scrolling down this DualShockers article, you'll find a transcription of what Yoshida said during a stream, I believe. There's a timestamp that is linked to, and then the article proceeds with Yoshida explained how the Metaverse is getting popular in Japan and how he received many interview requests to talk about it. He accepted these requests as they can always serve as a way to advertise Final Fantasy XIV. However, he'd like to make sure what he thinks of the Metaverse is conveyed without misunderstandings, and he's allowed to review the content of all interview articles before they're published by outlets. Now, he's not saying here that he wants to promote NFTs in conjunction with Final Fantasy XIV. Interviews in general are opportunities to talk about Final Fantasy XIV, while at the same time giving him the opportunity to express his genuine thoughts on this whole landscape. At one point, the Twitch chat on the live stream started spamming no NFTs when he said that he's going to talk about NFTs. The chat thought, oh no, Yoshi-P's like contemplating NFTs into Final Fantasy XIV, when what he said was, I'm going to give my thoughts on NFTs, but while doing so, I could also help promote Final Fantasy XIV, which has no ties to NFTs or Metaverse. Well, unless you look at it from the perspective of, aren't all MMOs technically metaverses? Haven't metaverses already existed? The metaverses of today, they're trying to like blend the real world elements with video game stuff, and it all sounds like a terrible idea. Just inconvenience for the sake of coolness, and then creating an environment, a virtual environment that companies can exert more control over. It all sounds like a dystopian nightmare. Now, when the chat started saying no NFTs and basically worried that Yoshi-P was leaning into them, Yoshi-P reacted to that, telling everyone to calm down, adding that the Metaverse and NFTs are completely different things, and how Final Fantasy XIV definitely won't be including NFTs. That's the stand that he took. As long as I'm able to say something about it, NFTs will never make their way into Final Fantasy XIV. It'll remain a truly, purely MMO experience. And for fans of Final Fantasy XIV, again, the top MMO right now, that was a huge sigh of relief. This is definitely one game where we don't want to see turned into a NFT blockchain-infested landscape. Beyond that, Yoshi-P expressed back then that he understands many fans, especially those outside of Japan, are against NFTs and are rightfully nervous seeing Square Enix president's New Year's letter. So he acknowledged that, no, yeah, that letter, I understand why people look at that and go, ugh, hell no. Yoshi-P stressed, however, that NFTs won't bring anything worthwhile to Final Fantasy XIV, seeing how the game is designed, so they won't incorporate any NFTs-related elements in Final Fantasy XIV. Thank God that he's not just trying to shove NFTs into a mold where it doesn't fit. NFTs don't belong in gaming, period, but, you know, companies are going to try to shove that stuff everywhere, and hopefully Yoshi-P will have the power to tell the executives on high, hell no, you do not get to insert that shit in this game and expect it to retain its reputation. Don't kill its reputation while Final Fantasy XIV is on a roll. Now, it's worth noting that Yoshi-P doesn't outright rule out NFTs. According to DualShockers, however, Yoshi-P would like one day to have the opportunity to speak with a Western outlet in an interview unrelated to Final Fantasy XIV to explain what he thinks of NFTs outside of Final Fantasy XIV, as he does believe that as a new business model, it could be possible to make an interesting game with NFTs if said game is exclusively built around NFTs from the beginning. Lastly, Naoki Yoshida stressed out that if he ever made a game built with NFTs, he'd still focus on making an interesting game, not on making money. This is what I've said before. I'm open to the possibility of new technologies potentially being incorporated in a way that can advance game design. But when it comes to NFTs, with how many cons it comes with right now, so far, not a single game developer, studio, or company has been able to explain what advantages NFTs actually provide. They've yet to be able to justify what NFTs will pave the road to, aside from just new monetization avenues for companies, but with very little to no benefits to us, the players. It just seems like a buzzword for things that we can already do through existing technology. And if somebody can come up with a way to implement NFTs that is solely unique and that can only be done with NFTs and that actually does give benefits to game design and to us, the players, then fine, I'll eat my words. But as of right now, I've yet to hear one good excuse, one good reason, one good justification. Now, Yoshi-P here says that he does believe as a new business model, it could be possible to make an interesting game with NFTs, and he stressed that he'd never just do it to make money, but he'd find a way to implement NFTs to actually make an interesting game. If you can somehow, by some miracle, manage to do that, fair enough. But you are not explaining anything either. So to me, it's more disconcerting that there is still some contemplation surrounding NFTs without the justification to back it up. But again, I'm happy to be disproven. So far, no company or entity has been able to do that. Now look, Yoshi-P has won some good grace, and the way he frames it is, if there is a way to make NFTs interesting for games, then he'd like to do it. And fine, that's an okay stance. But, like, again, what is that implementation? Why can nobody explain what that implementation is? It's almost as if NFTs don't actually contribute anything to video games. That's what it feels like for now, at least. But it doesn't seem like Yoshi-P would jump on the NFT bandwagon just for the sake of making money. At least that's what I'd hope. But just understand that so long as you're unable to provide a justification, people will continue to push back because NFTs so far have proven to be more harmful than good. In fact, there's almost nothing good about it as far as I've seen. Which finally brings us to this Silicon Era article published a few days ago on May 9th, 2022. This headline, a thing of beauty. Naoki Yoshida doesn't think the metaverse is entertainment. 100% correct. Video game companies will have you believe that metaverses will be entertainment, but in reality, it is an attempt to mesh real world with virtual world and create a virtual environment where people will be able to interact with each other and purchase NFT land and make purchases through this online environment and treat it all as investments and, ways to just milk people more of their money. More specifically, Yoshi-P responded to comments comparing Final Fantasy XIV to the Metaverse. Yoshida revealed that he did not see the Metaverse as similar to Final Fantasy XIV. Furthermore, Yoshida stated that he did not see the Metaverse as a form of entertainment in itself. And in the quote that the article relays here, he shares the same sentiments that I have about the Metaverse, which is essentially an MMOification of real-world elements. To me, I see the metaverse as a system that replaces reality with a virtual world, so I don't think the metaverse has anything in common with entertainment. Entertainment is a complete escape from reality. It's something you can invest in without any actual financial risks. You spend the one-time fee, and that should be it. You should have the whole package that is that entertainment medium and be able to partake in it. And with video games, there are in-game currencies, not referring to premium currencies, in-game currencies that are completely separate from any real-life elements. So in Final Fantasy XIV, when you spend money, it has no actual financial implications. When you partake in the housing market of Final Fantasy XIV, for example, you're spending money earned through in-game activities that can only be spent in-game that have no ties to real money whatsoever. That's entertainment because it's truly completely its own kind of virtual environment and its own fictional environment that you're kind of partaking in as an escape from the real world. But the second you start including premium currency and microtransactions and loot boxes and NFTs, and when suddenly your performance in the game or aspects of this interactive medium is tied to you constantly spending money, that's when it starts to not become so much an escape. Yoshi-P continues here, in the metaverse I'm thinking of, people will be able to use an avatar in virtual reality and take a stroll in Shinjuku or do shopping just like in real life. Indeed, one of the aspects that's being promoted about the metaverse is, hey, put on a headset or whatever, walk around and shop like you would in real life, but in a virtual environment at home or whatever. And my response is, isn't it just more convenient to pull out the rectangle in your pocket, tap a few buttons, and make a purchase? That way it's so much quicker, there's less setup involved, and you don't have to, like, interact with virtual people and whatever. It's just, the metaverse, like, technologically speaking, the fact that it's possible is kind of cool, but in terms of its implementation and what it actually adds, how it makes our lives more convenient, how it serves us as customers and consumers, there's really not much I can really think of. Companies will definitely greatly benefit from this by pushing this fad that they can milk. But for us, the customers, when you really think about it, there's no real true benefits other than giving companies more control over how we interact financially. He continues, though it might be fun, there is no entertainment there. What's so interesting about the systems of our real world is how I feel. And then when asked whether he has metaverse-related plans for future projects and whatnot, whether he'd participate in a metaverse project, Yoshida clarified that he would make something entertaining within the virtual reality rather than a metaverse itself. Indeed, virtual reality, I think, is a fantastic technology that can pave the road to new ways of entertainment, to new ways of gaming, and to partake in this interactive medium. I have nothing against virtual reality because I do think they can be an additive aspect to gaming on the side alongside the traditional form of gaming, and there are already plenty of awesome things that have been done with VR. And he's saying I might, do something VR related, but that's not necessarily going to be tied to the metaverse. It's just going to be like, a virtual reality game, a virtual reality interactive thing that you can partake in. From where I'm sitting, just what a great force he is for Square Enix. He seems to be a man of integrity who really wants to prioritize people having fun with his games, with Square Enix games, rather than just creating monetization-driven games that purposely make them more boring or purposely make them less convenient for those who don't pay up, for those who don't partake. It's just nice to hear somebody influential within Square Enix say these things, say the complete opposite of what Square Enix president and higher-up executives have been saying with their details about Metaverse and NFTs and how they're not prioritizing play to have fun as much as, play to earn. Basically saying that play to have fun is this separate category of video games, basically trying to make the point that not all video games are meant to be for fun. Some of them can just be play to earn. In that case, I don't really feel like they're video games, just software that are intended to be money leeches, investment opportunities, money-making opportunities, whatever. That's not entertainment at that point. That's just a virtual version of a business or a stock market. Though unfortunately for Square Enix, both the NFT landscape and the crypto market have been collapsing. There's less interest than ever, and then the crypto market itself recently experienced the major crash after one of the stablecoins, I believe Terra, crashed completely and burned. And so the crypto market is just way down, and things are just not looking great as far as that landscape is concerned. And so here we have a Forbes article whose headline reads, Square Enix details its elaborate NFT plans as the market craters. Just not great timing at all. And here are some points that Square Enix outlined recently. They've already created a blockchain entertainment business division. We have known about this. They finished up season 1 of a game you've probably never heard of, Shi San Sei Million Arthur, a blockchain card game. And Square Enix says that, oh man, so far the results have been positive. They're encouraged by the results and feedback from our NFT business, and so they want to drive that further. It just seems to me like they're in their own echo chamber and just selectively taking feedback that coincides with their own self-driven narrative that NFTs and Metaverse are the way of the future. It is then highlighted that they're generally exploring earning structures, breadth of play, and NFT ownership experiences. Ownership. Oh, that's hilarious in a landscape where hackers have been able to steal hundreds of millions of dollars worth of cryptocurrency through heists, or have been able to steal people's NFTs. Or sometimes when an NFT endeavor goes defunct, the thing that NFTs link to, the digital asset, be it an art piece, a music, or game, that gets lost, and then all you're left with is the receipt. So much for ownership in those scenarios. Beyond all that, Square Enix plan to establish guidelines for blockchain games and take on scalability with NFT economics. They plan to issue fungible tokens and design earning structures based around them. They plan to launch a new NFT brand an IP based on NFTs. And then finally, they're investing in Animoca Brands, which is focused on blockchain games and Web 3.0, and also the Sandbox, the decentralized metaverse that has attracted a lot of headlines for selling virtual blockchain real estate. Beyond the crypto crash, there's the NFT market collapse, with interest being at its lowest, with NFT trading just not being where it once used to be. General interest has just kind of fallen off. And again, alongside the crypto crash, there's the NFT market collapse, where there's just not as much trading as there used to be, and certainly nowhere near as much interest as there used to be. And Square Enix is leaning into NFTs and selling franchises like Tomb Raider and Eidos Montreal's Deus Ex and Legacy of Kain and all these treasure trove of IPs, just so that they can invest in a market that has proven to be volatile and in a downward trend, so good job there. And speaking of Square Enix's interest in things like blockchain real estate, well, there's been some shaky grounds on that front as well. It wasn't long ago that I talked about this May 7th article where NFT fans lost millions in video game real estate sales. This was a result of high transaction fees, or gas fees as they're known, because of a certain oversaturation that happened recently with this particular blockchain landscape, and then others were scammed for far more money. But among all that, you got Yoshi-P, a beloved producer within Square Enix, the head honcho of Final Fantasy XIV, who's led that game to victory, saying, yeah, I'm not super into Metaverse, I'm not super into NFTs, Final Fantasy XIV won't have any of that crap, and saying all the right things, saying that, you know, the Metaverse really isn't entertainment, and that video game companies in particular trying to get into this really aren't looking at it from an entertainment standpoint, they're looking at it from a monetization standpoint. Him kind of expressing the stances that I've had with NFTs and Metaverse, and the stance that plenty of people have as far as that landscape is concerned, is encouraging. But, you know, with Square Enix being so inclined on leaning into NFTs and Metaverse, I don't know how long him saying these things will be able to really stave off what feels like the inevitability that Square Enix one day may take advantage of their current successes or current successful titles and try to shove NFTs and Metaverse in them. And they probably know that it's going to piss off a lot of people, but that hasn't stopped other companies from implementing shady monetization schemes like microtransactions, loot boxes, you name it. So who's to say they won't start shoehorning NFTs and Metaverse in their popular franchises, IPs, video games, and start ruining them while at it. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully Yoshi-P has enough influence within the company that he can, like, really stop that stuff in their tracks, should it come to that, should executives within Square Enix get greedy enough that they want to start leveraging and taking advantage of other successful endeavors that currently don't have any of that stuff there. The future is still disconcerting, but Yoshi-P at least still seems to have his head on right. And he is like the one man at the company, the face of the company that I trust. He seems to be the guy that's kind of keeping Square Enix in balance when Square Enix is heading too much into their greedy shit. Yoshi-P kind of balances the scales a bit, though I wish the scales would be, you know, way off kilter so that the more video game fun factor stuff is more heavily weighed than the NFT, Metaverse, microtransactions, loot box, mobile gaming, greedy crap that people don't really care much for, at least, you know, people who are actually fans of Square Enix's games, IPs, and endeavors, or past endeavors. Yoshi-P, please continue to have integrity, and please continue to emphasize fun and the community and people's love for your franchises, and don't let the higher-ups ruin this crap, and hopefully you won't be corrupted by this crap either. But that's just one man's take. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on Yoshi-P's latest comments surrounding NFTs and Metaverse, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.